Chapter 1672, 7-Star Picture, Eta Ursi Majoris. Chapter 1672, 7-Star Picture, Eta Ursi Majoris. The huge 7-star picture was displayed before Jian Wushuang in a unique way. Jian Wushuang looked at the 7 stars in the picture, but he didn't understand anything from it. Lord Longqi, this picture is, Jian Wushuang asked subconsciously. This is the 7-star picture that only 7-star Black Sect has. The experts of 7-star Black Sect use it to comprehend the order of heaven and earth, and also rules of auxiliary treasure. The order of heaven and earth. The rules. Jian Wushuang was astonished. Of course, these things for you, who are in pure sun realm, are too far beyond. However, considering the fact that you were quite respectful when you greeted Master just now, I will give you an opportunity to comprehend. After all, one who cultivates the secret skill of 7-star is hard to come by. Someone who was related to Master came, I can't let them leave empty-handed, Longqi said. An opportunity to comprehend. Jian Wushuang was filled with excitement. Although he didn't know what was so special about the 7-star picture, the picture was useful to the experts in ancient times, so he believed it was definitely useful. Lord Longqi, how do I comprehend this 7-star picture? Jian Wushuang asked. In 7-star picture, there is a total of 7 stars. The 7 stars are Alpha Ursi Majoris, Beta Ursi Majoris, Gamma Ursi Majoris, Delta Ursi Majoris, Epsilon Ursi Majoris, Zeta Ursi Majoris and Eta Ursi Majoris. Every star has a unique orbit and evolution. Among the 7 stars, Alpha Ursi Majoris' orbit and evolution is the most unfathomable, while Eta Ursi Majoris has the easiest orbit and evolution. With your current power, you can only barely comprehend Eta Ursi Majoris. Remember this. You only have this one chance to comprehend. As for how much you can comprehend, that comes down to your capability. Longqi said and moved towards the last star on 7-star picture. Suddenly, the other 6 stars disappeared while the star that Longqi tapped on was quickly magnified in Jian Wushuang's eyes. Cherish this opportunity. Longqi drew back his palm before he turned and walked out of the hall. In the hall, there was only Jian Wushuang alone with the huge star before him. The star was extremely huge. Jian Wushuang looked at the star as though he saw a huge world. His entire mind and body were immersed into the star. At the beginning, the star had yet to complete and was under the breeding process. As time flew past, the star began to perfect and grow slowly. Just like a human, from growing on the placenta, to being born and growing up. From a baby that grew up into a teenager, a young adult and finally entered adulthood. The evolution of the star was the same. However, the time taken was longer than a human by a few folds. A star would take at least tens of millions of years to be born. This is a star's orbit and evolution. Too unfathomable, too magical. Jian Wushuang was in unprecedented shock. He knew that he needed to comprehend, but the orbiting and evolution of star was far beyond his imagination. He couldn't feel the thing at the depths, but he could only feel a rough orbit. But even though Jian Wushuang could only feel something rough, it was a drastic transformation. The time flew past. Since human birth till adulthood, and in the end, growing old and dying. The star followed a similar fashion. After a star was born, until it became perfect, it would have to face a breakdown and an extermination in the end. With the aid of 7-star picture, Jian Wushuang saw the progress of a star's birth to extermination clearly. The entire process took more than hundreds of millions of years, but comprehension in reality only took 10 years. 10 years later, the star broke down and turned into dust. The comprehension of 7-star picture ended as well. However, Jian Wushuang continued to sit in the hall. His consciousness was still indulged in the transformation process of the star and he continued to understand and comprehend. 3 months later, Jian Wushuang slowly came back to reality. Read more chapter on novel full. Phew. Jian Wushuang let out a breath of relief and there was shock in Jian Wushuang's eyes. It's too magical. The transformation progress of the star is too magical. It's a pity that I could only see something so superficial. Jian Wushuang found it a regrettable matter. He had once been to many unique places and comprehended some magical things. However, Anything that he had comprehended previously couldn't be compared favorably with 7-star picture. Even the 27 scroll paintings in Fairy Palace in Sanctuary Alliance were too different from 7-star picture. Millimeter, my comprehension towards reincarnation doctrine has heightened. Jian Wushuang suddenly looked surprised. He could feel that he had used the power of reincarnation and it had improved tremendously. He reckoned that his reincarnation doctrine could possess the power to pass through the 5th level in Doctrine Palace. As for spacetime doctrine, it was the same too. Although his comprehension of spacetime doctrine had yet to pass through the 6th level in Doctrine Palace currently, he wasn't far from it. Out of the 27 scroll paintings in Spacetime Fairy Palace, he had definitely already comprehended 16 paintings. Even the 17th painting, he had comprehended more than half of it. In merely 10 years of comprehension, he had merely comprehended the evolutionary process of Eta Ursae Majoris, which was the lowest in 7-star picture, and he could merely see the superficial things. But in the end, his comprehension towards doctrines had improved tremendously. What Jian Wushuang found unbelievable was that not only did the 10 years of comprehension helped him to improve the power and comprehension towards the power of Heaven Way, but he had also improved tremendously in soul power via comprehension. My current soul strength should have reached the level of chaotic real God and the extremely strong kind of chaotic real God. Jian Wushuang clenched his hand and felt the soul fire in the sea of his consciousness. The soul fire was much bigger than before. In terms of size itself, it was 3 times bigger. One should know that Jian Wushuang's soul power was at the standard of an ordinary eternal real God. With 1 time of comprehension, it had instantly increased so much. The 7-star picture. It lives up to the reputation of a treasure that helped superb experts in ancient time in comprehension, Jian Wushuang muttered. Jian Wushuang sighed and slowly got up to walk out of the hall. Just as he walked out of the hall, Jian Wushuang saw Long Qi, who was waiting for him while leaning against a crystal pillar. Long Qi opened his eyes and looked at Jian Wushuang. "Young man, you look like you have gained quite a bit, huh?" Jian Wushuang smiled at his comment. His reward was not only quite a bit, it was great. Chapter 1673, A Presumptuous Request. Chapter 1673. A Presumptuous Request. Comprehending that 7-star pattern has indeed caused my abilities to skyrocket. However, even with that, I am still not confident that I can leave safely. Jian Wushuang's expression turned grave. I have already given you the opportunity. As for whether you can leave this place alive, that's none of my business. Long Qi said indifferently, "Of course, if you really have no confidence, you can continue training in this palace for a period of time and leave when you are powerful enough." After hearing what was said, Jian Wushuang frowned. He was sure that outside the standalone space, there were a huge number of star demons. As soon as he went out, he would definitely be hunted down by the star demons crazily. Moreover, with his current abilities, it was totally impossible for him to escape from the dark region with those star demons besieging him. It would only be possible if he could make a breakthrough and become a Stage 2 ultimate real god. However, to reach that stage, he would need to accumulate a huge amount of divine power. Furthermore, it would take a long time for the divine power to accumulate. By just relying on his own training, he would still be unable to make a breakthrough even after 100,000 years' time. Moreover, to him, 100,000 years' time was too long. The space and time of the dark region is special. Hence, I cannot send a message out. With that, I am also unable to request for help from the lineage of Star, Jian Wushuang muttered to himself. Even the lineage of Star did not know that he had chased real god Ziyi to the dark region. At that moment, the lineage of Star was probably looking for his whereabouts anxiously. However, it was near to impossible for the lineage of Star to expand their search all the way into the dark region. Since he was unable to rely on the lineage of Star, he could only rely on himself. Just relying blindly on my own training to accumulate divine power will waste too much time. The only shortcut is to find a way to get more demon cores. Jian Wushuang clenched his fists tightly. He was in the dark region, which was the place that was most concentrated with star demons as well as the place with the most powerful star demons. Hence, it would be extremely difficult to go on a killing spree wantonly in such a place to obtain demon cores. However, It was not impossible. Lord Longqi, I would like to make a presumptuous request, Jian Wushuang said respectfully. Tell me your request. Longqi shot a glance at Jian Wushuang. For the next period of time, I will try to go outside and hunt for star demons. Thus, I would like to have the right to enter this standalone space freely. Jian Wushuang felt a bit nervous. After all, there were no friendly relations between him and Lord Longqi. Previously, Longqi had only saved him as he had cultivated the secret skill of 7-star as well. Moreover, Longqi also gave him an opportunity. All these actions were just Longqi being kind. However, at that moment, he still requested Longqi to give him the right to enter the standalone space freely. The standalone space was the sleeping place of Longqi's master, who was the black-robed man lying in the coffin. I can agree to this. However, it will be limited to 1,000 years. After 1,000 years, you have to leave, Longqi said. 1,000 years. Jian Wushuang muttered to himself and he nodded his head immediately. That's more than enough. All right. I will create a space passage that links this place to the outside world. For the next 1,000 years, you can use that space passage to enter and exit this place freely, Longqi said. Lord, thank you very much. Jian Wushuang was delighted. You can take your time and train here. After talking, Longqi's body disappeared with a flash. After Longqi left, Jian Wushuang sat down with his legs crossed right away. If I wish to leave this place quickly, I have to obtain a huge number of demon cores so that I can make a breakthrough. As for the way to obtain demon cores, Jian Wushuang clenched both his fists tightly. He already had a plan in his mind. There's no rush. Let me first absorb the pure power from the demon cores that I currently have. Jian Wushuang laughed apathetically. With a wave of his big hands, a huge number of demon cores appeared in front of him. Those demon cores were obtained by Jian Wushuang from real God Ziyi's Qian Kuan Ring. Real God Ziyi had been traveling in the core area of the 8th layer throughout the years, and he had been doing so for more than thousands of years. Thus, during the thousands of years, he had naturally obtained many demon cores from hunting star demons. However, after Jian Wushuang had killed him, those demon cores had naturally landed in the hands of Jian Wushuang and there were hundreds of them. Of course, among the hundreds of demon cores, most of them were grade 1 demon cores and grade 2 demon cores. As for grade 3 demon cores, there were very few of them. Moreover, among the demon cores, the highest grade demon core was a crimson core. This demon core was obtained by Jian Wushuang after using his trump card to kill a 3-horned crimson star demon. The amount of pure power that the crimson core contained was extremely shocking. Let's begin. Jian Wushuang started to absorb the pure power from the demon cores with great concentration immediately. However, he did not know that Lord Longqi was secretly observing him from somewhere within the Crystal Palace. He was observing each and every action of Jian Wushuang. This little kid is absorbing the power within the demon cores. Longqi frowned. The power within the demon cores are exceptionally pure and it is a great idea to absorb them. However, the divine power that this little kid possesses is extremely strange. Jian Wushuang possessed the ultimate divine power, which was completely different from the divine power of a normal real god. The only thing was that normal experts would not be able to tell such a kind of special divine power apart. Within the eternal chaotic world, even many almighties would be unable to tell it apart. They would at most think that Jian Wushuang's divine power was many times stronger than someone else who was of a similar realm to him. As for Longqi, as an expert from the ancient past, he could tell that Jian Wushuang's divine power was not normal. Even though he has just entered the pure sun realm, his divine power is so strong. The cultivation techniques that this little kid cultivates are not normal. Moreover, I can also feel a very peculiar treasure from him. What will this treasure be? It would require time to absorb the demon cores. The higher the level of the demon core, the slower the absorption speed. With hundreds of demon cores and even a crimson core, Jian Wushuang only finished absorbing all the pure power from the demon cores after a total of 11 years. Moreover, after he was done with the absorption, his body, which had originally contained 5 droplets of ultimate divine power, had managed to form the 6th droplet at that moment. Furthermore, He was very close to forming the seventh ultimate divine power water droplet. A little bit more, just a little bit more, and the seventh ultimate divine power water droplet will be formed. Jian Wushuang clenched both his fists tightly and his eyes were glowing brilliantly. He could feel very clearly that he was getting closer and closer to stage 2 ultimate real God. I have finished absorbing all the demon cores that I have obtained from real God Ziyi. Next, it's about time for me to execute my plan, Jian Wushuang muttered to himself. At the next moment, he stood up slowly, stretched his body and headed out of the palace immediately. After walking out of the Crystal Palace, what Jian Wushuang saw was still the giant standalone space and, at the end of his field of vision, there was a space passage. Without much hesitation, Jian Wushuang's body turned vague and he entered the space passage straight away. Chapter 1674 Hunting Plan. Chapter 1674 Hunting Plan. The space tunnel connected the independent space to the outside, but it was still the bottom of the dark river. Jian Wushuang, who had returned to the bottom of the rive, spread his soul power at the first instant. After 20 years, the dark river settled down entirely. The star demons that chased after Jian Wushuang to the bottom of the river back then had already returned to the shore. Jian Wushuang slowly got closer to the shore. Although he was underwater, Jian Wushuang's soul power covered everything on the shore. As expected, the star demon didn't return to the underground. Jian Wushuang's face grew solemn. The star demon clan was very unique. Previously, when Jian Wushuang had chased after real God Ziyi and come into the dark region, the star demons were hidden deep in the underground. However, since they were startled, the star demons had climbed up from the underground. In a short time, they wouldn't return to the underground. Jian Wushuang naturally couldn't leave the dark region in silence. There are so many of them, Jian Wushuang exclaimed in surprise. Merely within the coverage of his soul power, there were more than thousands of star demons. Among the thousands of star demons, almost all were adult star demons who possessed demon cores. There were many two-horned and three-horned star demons. Jian Wushuang aimed at the region with the most densely populated star demons, then he moved towards the region underwater. At the same time, there was a scroll painting that appeared in Jian Wushuang's hand. When he got closer to the region, he threw the scroll painting into the dark void above. The scroll painting instantly flowed into the dark void. Rumble. Heaven and earth shook. The star demons at the scene, including those strong three horns green star demons and three horns crimson star demons, had yet to respond, but the dark void above took a drastic change. A huge, enchanting scroll painting world surfaced. The scroll painting world covered the entire sky like water flowing gracefully. In the scroll painting, there were 9 pieces of land. The boundless aura spread across from the scroll painting world that attracted the star demons below to notice it, and they let out groans and roars. There was a large number of star demons roaring, but there was no star demon that noticed Jian Wushuang, who was hiding in the water. Until the boundless divine power swept out from Jian Wushuang's body to evaporate the surrounding river water and caused a huge movement, the star demons slowly noticed his existence. Human cultivator. Eat. Kill. Kill. A large number of star demons instantly swarmed over and charged at Jian Wushuang. On the other hand, Jian Wushuang was also soaring with murderous intention. Mountain river as palm and 9 province as print. A seal breaks heaven. Jian Wushuang uttered every single word coldly, and every word contained a special magic power. In the scroll painting world, the 9 lands suddenly became alive. One of them even surfaced from the scroll painting world gradually. A terrifying pressure pressed over madly. The star demons that were within the coverage of the land felt the pressure, and their roars became more shrill and mad. Begone. There was a sharp gleam in Jian Wushuang's eyes. The lofty land finally descended and pressed onto the vast land before Jian Wushuang. In an instant, the tens of thousands of miles of vast land was crushed by the lofty land while the star demons roared in madness. A terrifying power exploded entirely, and those star demons almost instantly crushed them into pieces under the pressure of the lofty land. Rumble. A terrifying power formed into storm that dispersed in all directions. Very soon, everything settled down. The mountain river map rolled up and Jian Wushuang kept it. Jian Wushuang stood in the void and swept his soul power out. He could clearly see within the expanse of tens of thousand miles crushed by the lofty land before him. It had originally had a large number of star demons, but then there were only 3 star demons that were alive. The 3 star demons were Three Horns Crimson Star Demon, which could be compared favorably with an expert on human real god ranking list. They could barely survive the crush of the lofty land. But besides the 3 Crimson Star Demons, the rest of the 1,000 star demons were dead. In the huge land, rays of black light glowed. The lights were demon cores. In a glance, there were at least 1,000 of them. So many demon cores. I'll see how many can I get. Jian Wushuang licked his lips and there was a flash of heat in his eyes. The next moment, he soared up into a statue of dark gold ancient god, and the statue revealed 4 heads and 8 arms at the same time. The divine power in Jian Wushuang started burning with madness and, in the next moment, he gave full play to the secret skill of dragon blood to his limit. Swoosh! There was a ray of golden lightning suddenly sweeping out, and it barged into the expanse of tens of thousands of miles that was crushed by sky-breaking seal. That ray sucked in the floating demon cores into his Chen Kuan ring. In the coverage of the tens of thousands of miles, the 3 green star demons that weren't killed earlier saw Jian Wushuang's movement and they immediately let out a sad and shrill scream. Then, they plunged towards Jian Wushuang in an instant. Besides, in the expanse of tens of thousands of miles, there were still demon stars that were charging over madly. Among the 3 crimson star demons, the one who was closest to Jian Wushuang only needed at most 2 breaths to get to Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang tried his best to take in as many demon cores as possible within the 2 breaths. Take. Jian Wushuang seized the time to collect them. 2 breaths' time passed in the blink of an eye. The first crimson star demon had already arrived. Jian Wushuang was shocked at the sight and acted without hesitation. Escape. Under the amplitude of the secret skill of dragon blood, Jian Wushuang's speed was shockingly fast and he cast a lot of shadows at the same time. Although the shadows couldn't confuse the crimson star demons, Jian Wushuang's speed increased slightly with the aid of his martial art motion. As he ran at full speed, Jian Wushuang arrived at the Black River again after a short while and he instantly dived down into the river. The star demons naturally dived down into the river as well. They were chasing after Jian Wushuang madly. In the deepest bottom of the river, there was a space tunnel. Jian Wushuang snuck into the space tunnel and vanished before the star demons that were chasing after him. Swoosh! A dark golden flowing light burst out from another end of the space tunnel and appeared in the independent space again. The dark golden flowing light dispersed and Jian Wushuang's body was slowly revealed. At that very moment, he looked surprised. Done. My hunting plan worked out. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands and he was really excited. Chapter 1675, Stage 2 Ultimate Real God. Chapter 1675, Stage 2 Ultimate Real God. As he was trapped within the standalone space due to the star demons, he naturally needed to find a way to leave. However, Jian Wushuang was dissatisfied with relying on himself to accumulate divine power by training for many years. Hence, he had to hunt down the star demons and get their demon cores. However, there were too many star demons and they were extremely powerful. Thus, it would not work if he were to use normal hunting techniques. Therefore, Jian Wushuang drafted a plan to hunt them. Frankly speaking, the plan was very simple. He would use the first move, Split the Heavens seal, of the Mountain River Map's 9-province seal and do his best to kill the star demons. As he currently had a great amount of divine power, when he unleashed the Split the Heavens seal with his full power, the power that it brought forth would be so powerful that it would make him rank at the front of the real god ranking list. When such an attack was used as a large range attack, it would be able to kill a great number of star demons. Moreover, this had been proven to be true. Within a range of tens of thousands of miles, among the thousands of star demons with unequal abilities, apart from the 3 crimson star demons which were the strongest, all the other star demons were exterminated by the Split the Heavens seal. After killing them, Jian Wushuang made his move with lightning speed and in a short amount of time, he would do his best to collect as many demon cores as possible. When the other star demons finally reacted and headed toward him, he would run back to the standalone space immediately. As long as he escaped into the standalone space, the star demons would not be able to do anything against him. Everything happened as Zhen Wushuang had expected. If there were something that he felt was a pity, it would be that he only had 2 breaths' time and it was too short. Hence, he did not manage to collect a lot of demon cores. The number of demon cores he collected was probably less than 1/4 of what was available. It should be known that when Zhen Wushuang had used the Split the Heavens seal moments ago, he had killed thousands of star demons in one go. Even though he did not manage to collect 1/4 of what was available, he had still managed to collect more than 300 demon cores. After returning to the Crystal Palace, Zhen Wushuang sat down with his legs crossed in a big palace immediately. With that, he started to do an inventory check on the number of demon cores that he had collected within the 2 breaths' time. 8 grade 3 green demon cores. 21 normal grade 3 demon cores. 52 grade 2 demon cores. The type of demon core that I have the most is the grade 1 demon core with a total of 234 of them. By adding all the demon cores together, I will have a total of 322 demon cores. Haha tilde. After checking his inventory, Zhen Wushuang was pleasantly surprised at the results. It should be known that the number of demon cores that real God Ziyi had obtained after traveling in the core region of the 8th layer for thousands of years was comparable to what he had at that moment. Moreover, in terms of quality, real God Ziyi's demon cores were inferior to his. With only 1 extermination, his gains were greater than real God Ziyi's, who had traveled in the core region of the 8th layer for thousands of years. Previously, after absorbing real God Ziyi's demon cores, I was about to form the 7th ultimate divine power water droplet. And now, if I absorb all these demon cores, I will definitely be able to form the 7th ultimate divine power water droplet, and even the 8th droplet as well. Zhen Wushuang's eyes were glowing brilliantly. Let's begin. Without much delay, Zhen Wushuang started to absorb the pure power within the demon cores with great concentration. At the same time as Zhen Wushuang was absorbing the power of the demon cores, Lord Longqi's eyes, which were glowing with a special light, were looking at Zhen Wushuang from somewhere within the Crystal Palace. Although he had been staying within the standalone space, he still paid attention to everything that had happened in the outside world moments ago. This little kid. Previously, I could tell that he possessed a special treasure that even I was able to detect, and it was as I had expected. However, I did not expect the treasure that he possessed to actually be the mountain river map. During the battle back then, the mountain river map should have been torn into pieces and it was seriously damaged. However, when the little kid took it out, the mountain river map has been patched up completely. Who is the person who patched it up? Longqi was filled with doubts. He was certain how badly damaged the mountain river map had been after the battle back then. Thus, he also knew how difficult it was to patch it up. However, at that moment, Zhen Wushuang took out a mountain river map, which was completely intact. No matter who is the person who patched it up, since this little kid has the mountain river map, this means that he is indeed very closely related to the 7-star black sect that Master is in. Hence, I absolutely cannot let such a little kid die here. As Longqi murmured to himself, his voice could be heard for a long time in the palace. In a flash, another 10 years passed. Once again, Zhen Wushuang had finished absorbing the pure power from the demon cores that he had obtained. As for the ultimate divine power water droplet in his body, the 7th droplet had formed as he wished and he was also very close to forming the 8th droplet. Read more chapter on Novelful. This is exactly as I thought. I am already very close to forming the 8th ultimate divine power water droplet. Next, time to continue. Zhen Wushuang's eyes glowed brilliantly. After that, he began his second hunt. In a split second, Zhen Wushuang returned to the Crystal Palace again. It was the same hunting technique as before. Although Zhen Wushuang did not obtain as many demon cores as before, he still obtained more than 280 of them. Once again, Zhen Wushuang started to absorb the pure power within the demon cores. Just like that, Zhen Wushuang repeated the cycle of hunting and absorbing. Although every hunt was extremely risky, Zhen Wushuang's luck was considered not too bad. After many rounds of hunting, he obtained an innumerable number of demon cores. By absorbing these demon cores, they became the ultimate divine power in his body. Time passed by, and in the blink of an eye, 60 years had passed. During the 60 years, Zhen Wushuang went on a hunt 5 times. Although he got his way all 5 times, the number of demon cores that he obtained decreased with every hunt. After all, although there were many star demons near the river, they were unable to withstand his repeated massacre. Thus, their numbers naturally decreased. At that moment, when Zhen Wushuang went out for a hunt, he could at most obtain over 100 demon cores on each hunt. Although there were fewer demon cores, it was still enough for Zhen Wushuang. Within the Crystal Palace, Zhen Wushuang was sitting down alone with his legs crossed, and he was slowly absorbing the pure power from a grade 3 green demon core in his hands. As he absorbed the pure power, the ultimate divine power in his body continued to rise. Moreover, at the start, his ultimate divine power was gathering madly. However, in the end, it formed a new ultimate divine power water droplet. At the moment that the ultimate divine power water droplet was formed, Zhen Wushuang opened his eyes fiercely and stopped absorbing the demon core immediately. The 10th ultimate divine power water droplet has been formed. Zhen Wushuang was over the moon. At that moment, there was a total of 10 ultimate divine power water droplets floating in his body quietly. When they were linked together, they formed a complete circle. Straight away after that, Zhen Wushuang's body shook violently. At that moment, his body and his ultimate divine power started to undergo a transformation. Such a transformation was purely a transformation in terms of quality, where the divine power and body would rise to a new level. The transformation process was not complicated, and the time that it took was not very long either. After just a short while, the transformation was complete. As for Zhen Wushuang, by just clenching both his fists tightly, frightening power burst forth abruptly and crushed the void easily. I have achieved Stage 2 Ultimate Real God. Chapter 1676, Soul Attack Divine Weapon. Chapter 1676, Soul Attack Divine Weapon. Stage 2 Ultimate Real God was equal to an eternal real God of an ordinary cultivator. However, the distance was vast. A Stage 1 Ultimate Real God himself, Zhen Wushuang's divine power and divine body was at the level of chaotic real God. Then, he reached Stage 2 and his divine power and divine body instantly jumped to almighty level. It was almighty, an existence on the top of the pyramid in eternal chaotic world. This is the power that an almighty possesses. Zhen Wushuang clenched his hands and felt the strength in his hand. He wasn't sure how much stronger it was compared to his strength before. Strong. Unbelievably strong. No wonder the Almighties could be high above. Merely the divine power and divine body itself is far beyond a chaotic real God. Zhen Wushuang sighed. Of course, he was only at Stage 2. Hence, his divine power and divine body was only the first level among the Almighties. The Almighties were also segregated into 3 different levels. The 3 levels had their own names. The first level was called Sir God. The second level was called Emperor God. The third level, also the highest level in eternal chaotic world, was Great Emperor. Among the 3 levels of Almighties, Sir God was naturally the most common, followed by Emperor God, and Great Emperor was the rarest. Like the owner of Skysword Mountain, Jiyu Tong King and Jiyu Yi King, the 2 7-star ancient gods were Sir God level. The Star Palace Master, Luozhen King and Jiyu Yu King, the 2 8-star ancient gods were Emperor God level. As for Great Emperor, Zhen Wushuang had yet to see one, but he knew of Purple Moon Emperor, the master of Purple Moon Sanctuary. Of course, Purple Moon Sanctuary had a super existence of a Great Emperor. Zhen Wushuang believed that the other sanctuaries should have super existences of Great Emperor level as well. However, including the entire Sanctuary Alliance, experts who were of Great Emperor level were definitely extremely few. Zhen Wushuang's divine power and divine body then was at the level of an ordinary Sir God. Divine power and divine body are considerable. Compared to an ordinary Sir God, my disadvantage should be in comprehension of power of Heaven Way. If my comprehension of power of Heaven Way reaches the standard of the 7th level in Doctrine Palace, I could totally fight against an ordinary Almighty, Zhen Wushuang muttered, and he was filled with excitement. Just then, vroom. A shadow suddenly appeared next to Jian Wushuang. Lord Long Qi, Jian Wushuang bowed politely. You broke through? Long Qi stared at Jian Wushuang. Yes, Jian Wushuang nodded. From pure yang initial success stage to great achievement stage, although it is just a small breakthrough, your divine power and divine body went through such a drastic change. Your cultivation methods are quite unusual. Even I have never seen such method. Real God. Long Qi's voice was calm. Pure yang initial success stage to great achievement stage that he had mentioned was actually referring to void real God turning into eternal real God. It was just that the way eternal chaotic world and ancient times referred to realms differently. I am an inverse cultivator, so my method is different. Jian Wushuang smiled. Inverse cultivator? I have never heard of it. Long Qi shook his head. There were no inverse cultivators back in ancient times. Don't bother about that. Young man, I suddenly recalled that there is something that you might be able to use, Long Qi suddenly said. At the same time, there was an item that popped into his hand. Millimeter? Jian Wushuang immediately looked at the item in Long Qi's hand. It was a dark gold rod. The dark gold rod was long but extremely thin. Under normal circumstances, an expert who was good with rods wouldn't opt for a thin long rod to be his weapon. Lord Long Qi, this is? Jian Wushuang looked confused. The dark gold rod was probably unsuitable for an expert who was good at rods, while Jian Wushuang was a sword cultivator. A rod wouldn't be of any use to him. This is Hong Jun divine rod. Of course, it is imitated, Long Qi said. An imitated divine weapon? Jian Wushuang was surprised. Hong Jun divine rod wasn't an attack divine weapon but a soul attack divine weapon. Long Qi glanced at Jian Wushuang and threw the dark gold rod at Jian Wushuang at the same time. Jian Wushuang caught the rod automatically. He originally thought such a thin, dark gold rod shouldn't carry much weight, so he caught it with one hand. However, the moment he caught the dark gold rod, an unprecedented strength pressed onto his hand and his palm instantly bent from the sudden pressure. His body too grew heavy and he quickly extended his other hand. Using two hands at the same time, Jian Wushuang held the dark gold rod with difficulty. So heavy. Too heavy. My divine power is at the level of an almighty. In the end, I still find it strenuous to carry the rod with two hands. Jian Wushuang found it unbelievable. Just how strong was an almighty's divine power? Forget about the rod, he could break or lift up 100 million Jin mountain easily. But then, the dark gold rod in his hand made him feel heavy and strained. Soul attack divine weapon? In other words, the rod was driven with soul power? Jian Wushuang asked. Yes, you can give it a try now, Long Qi said. Jian Wushuang didn't hesitate and instantly let his boundless soul power flow out to cover the dark gold rod. Then, Jian Wushuang slowly hid his palms and let his soul power carry the dark gold rod. He let it float in the air in silence. It's still very heavy, Jian Wushuang muttered. His soul power already reached the level of a chaotic real god. However, it was still strenuous to carry the dark gold rod before him. It was difficult to even carry it up. It would be total extravagant hope to manipulate the dark gold rod to kill his enemy. You try to control Hong Jun divine rod to move forward and see how far it can go, Long Qi said. Jian Wushuang nodded and did as what Long Qi had instructed to control the dark gold rod to move forward. However, even though he gave his all, the dark gold rod was still trembling in balance and traveling at an extremely slow speed. After a while, the dark gold rod only traveled forward for 100 meters, and the moment it reached 100 meters, bang! The dark gold rod directly landed on the crystal ground below and made a tremendous noise. Luckily, the material of the crystal palace was unusual. Otherwise, with the weight of the dark gold rod, it could easily break the crystal ground. The further the distance of soul power, the more difficult it becomes to control it. My current limit is only to control Hong Jun divine rod to travel for 100 meters, Jian Wushuang said bitterly. 100 meters, barely. Long Qi muttered and waved his hand. Before Jian Wushuang, there was instantly a miniature gold turtle. Chapter 1677, Familiarization Training. Chapter 1677, Familiarization training. This is. Jian Wushuang looked at the palm-sized golden dragon turtle with surprise. This is a gadget that I made. After explaining, Long Qi pointed in 4 different directions. With that, light beams rose from the 4 corners and became a seal instantly. The range that such a seal covered was not big, and it could only cover less than 1/3 of the big palace that Jian Wushuang was in. At the same time, another circular seal appeared around Jian Wushuang and covered him. From today, you will stay inside this circular seal and practice manipulation of the Hongjun divine rod. You can only leave this seal when you are able to destroy the little gadget that I have made, Long Qi said. You want me to manipulate the Hongjun divine rod to destroy this small dragon turtle? Jian Wushuang was stunned. However, he understood in the next moment that Long Qi wanted him to practice the control of the Hongjun divine rod so that he would become more proficient in it. With a wave of Long Qi's hands, the Hongjun divine rod flew in front of Jian Wushuang. You may begin. After speaking, Long Qi disappeared. In the whole palace, only Jian Wushuang and the palm-sized golden dragon turtle remained. However, they were within 2 different seals. Let me have a try. Although Jian Wushuang did not understand Long Qi's intentions, he still followed Long Qi's instructions and started to practice using the Hongjun divine rod. Under the control of Jian Wushuang's soul power, the tottering Hongjun divine rod started to move. However, its speed of movement was so slow that it was pathetic. When Jian Wushuang finally managed to control the Hongjun divine rod to move behind the golden dragon turtle realized its presence. Upon realizing the Hongjun divine rod's presence, its 4 legs moved at the same time and it moved more than 200 meters away instantly. This speed, Jian Wushuang opened his eyes wide. The speed of the golden dragon turtle was not very fast. At the very least, it was considered very slow in Jian Wushuang's eyes. If not for Jian Wushuang being unable to leave the circular seal around him, he would be able to catch the golden dragon turtle easily by taking 1 step. However, no matter how slow the golden dragon turtle's speed was, it was still a lot faster than the Hongjun divine rod's movement, which was controlled by Jian Wushuang's soul power. It was at least 10 times faster. I should take it slow. I have only just begun to control the Hongjun divine rod and I am not proficient in it. As such, its speed is slow. After I have become proficient in controlling it, its speed will definitely rise. In addition, the heavy weight of the Hongjun divine rod will serve as training for my soul power. As long as my soul power becomes more powerful, it will naturally become easier for me to control the Hongjun divine rod. Jian Wushuang was not discouraged. Instead, he continued to familiarize himself with controlling the Hongjun divine rod. The fact was indeed as Jian Wushuang had expected. At the start, it was indeed very difficult for him to control the Hongjun divine rod. The speed of movement of the Hongjun divine rod was extremely slow and the Hongjun divine rod also shook while moving. However, as Jian Wushuang continued to practice controlling the Hongjun divine rod, he became more proficient in it. At the very least, the Hongjun divine rod was stable when it was moving. Next, Jian Wushuang needed to think of a way to increase the speed of movement of the Hongjun divine rod. Time passed. Jian Wushuang stayed within the big palace and practiced controlling the Hongjun divine rod repeatedly. As he practiced controlling, he gradually got used to the weight of the Hongjun divine rod. Putting it another way, it could also be said that his soul power had increased under the heavy pressure of the Hongjun divine rod. In just a short 3 years' time, Jian Wushuang could control the Hongjun divine rod stably. After that, another 11 years passed. In addition to the 3 years that he had used back then, he had used a total of 14 years. Within the big palace, swoosh. The golden dragon turtle's 4 legs were crawling madly and it was moving around the 1,000-meter range that the seal covered. Moreover, a long, dark golden tail was following behind the golden dragon turtle and it was moving at a slightly faster speed. Although the speed was only a slight bit faster that was not even worth mentioning, it still closed the distance between the 2 of them. Finally, be destroyed. After a cry from Jian Wushuang, the dark golden Hongjun divine rod finally caught up with the golden dragon turtle and it smashed the golden dragon turtle into pieces straight away. I have succeeded. Jian Wushuang's eyes brightened up and his face was filled with happiness. Long-Chi's body appeared beside him quickly. After taking a glance at the golden dragon turtle which had been destroyed, he nodded his head. You have only used 14 years to achieve this stage. You are not too bad. After hearing what was said, Jian Wushuang gasped. Although it was only 14 years, he was certain how difficult the process had been during the 14 years. As the Hongjun divine rod was too heavy, it gave him a lot of pain when it exerted its pressure on his soul power. At present, Jian Wushuang still felt that it was a bit taxing on him to control the Hongjun divine rod. Lord Long-Chi, why did you make me familiarize myself with controlling the Hongjun divine rod for the past 14 years? Could it be that you wish for me to control the Hongjun divine rod to kill my foes in the future? Wouldn't that be too difficult for me? Jian Wushuang questioned with a frown. The Hongjun divine rod was special. Jian Wushuang could also feel that the power of the Hongjun divine rod was frightening. However, it was really too heavy. Although Jian Wushuang had familiarized himself with controlling the Hongjun divine rod for 14 years with great concentration, he could only barely control the Hongjun divine rod to catch up with the golden dragon turtle. However, the speed of movement of the Hongjun divine rod was still extremely slow to the point that it was equivalent to a snail in the eyes of universe gods. Even though such an attack technique had shocking power, it would still be useless as its speed was too slow and it would be impossible to even touch the enemies. Even if my soul power were to make a huge breakthrough in the future to achieve the level of an almighty, I would probably still be unable to control the Hongjun divine rod to fight, Jian Wushuang said. Long-Chi naturally understood Jian Wushuang. With a wave of his hands, he kept the Hongjun divine rod and his eyes looked down at Jian Wushuang. I merely lent you the Hongjun divine rod for you to familiarize yourself with controlling it. As for what I really want to give you, it's this. With a flip of his hands, a sword-type weapon which had an extremely peculiar shape appeared in front of Jian Wushuang at once. A sword. Jian Wushuang's eyes moved. What Long-Chi had taken out was indeed a sword. However, the sword was strange. The whole sword was completely gold in color and its length was 4 Chinese feet. However, the most important thing was that there was no handle. That's right. The sword only had a sword blade and no sword handle. Its 2 ends were extremely sharp and their edges were glowing with a cold light. Similarly, the blade of the sword was very thin, just like the Hongjun divine rod from before. This is the Hongjun golden sword. Of course, it is only an imitation. As for its use, it is similar to the Hongjun divine rod. Since you have already learnt how to control the Hongjun divine rod, you can now try to control the Hongjun golden sword. Long-Chi tossed the Hongjun golden sword toward Jian Wushuang. With the experience of catching the Hongjun divine rod from before, Jian Wushuang had learnt to be smart and he caught the Hongjun golden sword with both his hands at the same time. However, when he caught the Hongjun golden sword, his expression changed. Chapter 1678, Hongjun Golden Sword. Chapter 1678, Hongjun Golden Sword. Hongjun Golden Sword is so light. Jian Wushuang carried Hongjun Golden Sword with one hand. Although he found it heavy, it was so vastly different compared to Hongjun Divine Rod. Then, he immediately drove his soul power to cover Hongjun Golden Sword and controlled it like he controlled Hongjun Divine Rod. In the end, Hongjun Golden Sword instantly turned into a ray of golden light and flew out. Its speed was a dozen times faster than Hongjun Divine Rod. This, Jian Wushuang was shocked. Hongjun Golden Sword is similar to Hongjun Divine Rod. Although they are divine weapons that are driven with soul power, the difference is that Hongjun Divine Rod focuses on momentum and focuses on power. Hence, it is very heavy and it is very difficult to control. On the other hand, Hongjun Golden Sword leans towards speed and sharpness. It relies on the sword blade and the tip of the sword to kill your opponent. As a result, the weight is naturally much lighter and much easier to control. Long-Chi looked at Jian Wushuang. Previously, I let you get used to controlling Hongjun Divine Rod for you to familiarize yourself with the manipulation method of soul power, also to enhance your soul strength. You familiarized and controlled it for 14 years, and you can barely control Hongjun Divine Rod. Hence, it is naturally much easier to control Hongjun Golden Sword. I see. Jian Wushuang understood. It was true. If Long Qi were to pass him Hongjun Golden Sword right at the beginning, he could familiarize himself with it, but due to the difference in weight, he definitely wouldn't feel as significantly at ease when he was controlling Hongjun Golden Sword after 14 years of familiarizing himself with it and controlling it. Yes, he was at ease. Just like when a commoner carried stones. At first, he would be carrying a few hundred jin stone and he would get used to the weight. One day, if he suddenly went to carry a dozen jin stone, he would naturally feel at ease. Jian Wushuang was in that situation. Besides, the way you control Hongjun Golden Sword is merely the simplest soul control, but Hongjun Golden Sword is performed via soul power in collaboration with power of Heaven Wei. Long Qi took out a token backhandedly. In this token, it recorded Hongjun Golden Sword's first form of skill. Read it carefully. Jian Wushuang took the token and started browsing through. As he read, his pupils contracted in shock. Space-time. Hongjun Golden Sword is performed using space-time power? Jian Wushuang couldn't help but revealed a thrilled expression. Yes, Hongjun Golden Sword was performed via soul power in flawless collaboration with space-time doctrine. It was mainly focusing on space-time power, and soul power was only a means to control it. Besides, not only space-time doctrine, but also reincarnation doctrine that Jian Wushuang comprehended could also be merged into Hongjun Golden Sword to enhance the power of Hongjun Golden Sword. The skill recorded in the token was the method to perform Hongjun Golden Sword perfectly. With my current soul strength, relying on merely soul to drive Hongjun Golden Sword, the speed isn't fast. However, with this skill to merge space-time power flawlessly into Hongjun Golden Sword, Jian Wushuang was getting excited from the thought of it. The first form of Hongjun Golden Sword had a total of 9 levels. You can control an extra Hongjun Golden Sword when you level up. So, I prepared a total of 9 Hongjun Golden Sword for you, Long Qi said. Then he took out another 8 Hongjun Golden Swords that looked identical. These 9 Hongjun Golden Swords are for you. You can take your time to familiarize yourself with it and control it at your own pace. Then, Long Qi's body turned illusionary and vanished into thin air before Jian Wushuang again. Jian Wushuang put the 8 Hongjun Golden Swords into Qian Kuan Ring and he was confused. He could tell that Hongjun Golden Sword was unusual. Any one of them should be a priceless treasure, just like treasures that Jian Wushuang carried. Besides River Mountain Map, he reckoned there shouldn't be any treasure that could be compared favorably with Hongjun Golden Sword. It was hard to even say if Blood Mountain Sword could be compared favorably. Such treasures, Long Qi took out 9 in one go and gave them to him as a gift straight away. Why was Long Qi treating him so well out of a sudden? One should know that Long Qi was very cold to him previously. He didn't even care if he was dead or alive and let him run his own course. But, he suddenly took out treasures like Hongjun Golden Sword for him and purposely taught him how to use it. Jian Wushuang felt that he didn't do anything. He had merely broken through and become a stage 2 ultimate real god. Wasn't the change of his attitude too much? Whatever. In short, Hongjun Golden Sword is no doubt a treasure to me. With it, my power definitely could increase by a few levels. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands. Jian Wushuang immediately started to drive Hongjun Golden Sword according to the recorded skill. In the hall. Swoosh. A gold flowing light lit up and the very end of the void in the hall, which was at least a dozen miles away from Jian Wushuang, suddenly cracked. This speed is so fast. Although he was mentally prepared, Jian Wushuang still got a school when he saw the speed when Hongjun Golden Sword launched. The speed was too fast. It was even faster when he gave his all to perform martial art motion. The power was also terrifyingly shocking too. It was only the first time Jian Wushuang had controlled Hongjun Golden Sword using spacetime power. Continue to familiarize. Jian Wushuang was excited and he immediately started to practice Hongjun Golden Sword. In the hall, there were constantly gold-flowing lights flashing but never the substantial form of the gold-flowing light. In the blink of an eye, it had been 20 years. In 20 years, Jian Wushuang had been familiarizing himself to perform with Hongjun Golden Sword. He practiced frequently every day. For the past 20 years, He didn't know how many times he had practiced. From the practice, the first level of Hongjun Golden Sword in the first form, which was also the first Hongjun Golden Sword, had finally been performed completely. His soul power, comprehension of spacetime doctrine, and comprehension of reincarnation doctrine were merged into Hongjun Golden Sword. When he wielded Hongjun Golden Sword, it was already extremely terrifying. I have almost mastered the first Hongjun Golden Sword, but I mostly practice alone. Next, I should bring Hongjun Golden Sword to an actual fight, Jian Wushuang smiled. In the dark region, the opponent the Jian Wushuang want to fight against was naturally the star demons. Jian Wushuang immediately entered the Black River through the space tunnel. Then, he didn't hide in the river and massacre the star demons using river mountain map, but he instantly plunged from the water and landed on the shore. Back when Jian Wushuang was chased to the Black River, the number of the surrounding star demon had been terrifying. However, after Jian Wushuang's 6 massacres in the past 100 years, the remaining star demons were obviously fewer. Chapter 1679 Massacre. Chapter 1679 Massacre. Atop the Darkland, there were a few star demons scattered about. When Jian Wushuang spread his soul power out wantonly, he only saw the existence of hundreds of star demons, and there were less than 1,000 of them. In actual fact, hundreds of star demons were already a lot. However, it was still considered very few compared to the thousands of star demons which were gathered there at the very start. When Jian Wushuang appeared on the ground, the scattered star demons looked toward him immediately. Human cultivator. Kill, kill. Without hesitation, the hundreds of star demons charged toward Jian Wushuang and their violent auras rose. If it were back then when he had not made a breakthrough to Stage 2 Ultimate Real God yet, Jian Wushuang would definitely choose to escape without hesitation if he were to see such a number of star demons charging toward him. However, at present, Jian Wushuang crossed his hands and stood at his position calmly. As he looked at the star demons which were storming toward him from all directions, he wore an indifferent smile. Buzz. A golden light floated beside Jian Wushuang. It was the Hongjun Golden Sword. At that moment, tens of star demons with unequal abilities appeared beside him. Let me see how strong the true power of the Hongjun Golden Sword is. Jian Wushuang's eyes were filled with excitement. Swish. A golden ray of light moved fiercely. Although the golden ray of light had only just appeared, it had already pierced through the bodies of tens of star demons nearby. Swish. 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 Soft sounds could be heard. As for the tens of star demons which included a 3-horned green star demon, they were killed right away without even being able to give a horrible shriek. There was no room for them to struggle. After seeing that, Jian Wushuang's eyes brightened up at once. It should be known that a 3-horned green star demon could rival a top chaotic real god of the human cultivators. However, there was also no room for it to struggle. Moreover, the most important thing was that Jian Wushuang had held back some of his divine power. I have merely used divine power that is comparable to that of a normal chaotic real god, and it is similar to the time before I made a breakthrough. However, by relying on the Hongjun Golden Sword, I can kill green star demons instantly, Jian Wushuang murmured, and he was extremely excited. Swoosh. 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 A great number of star demons besieged Jian Wushuang crazily. However, Jian Wushuang stood still and did not move at all. Just like before, he was only controlling the Hongjun Golden Sword. The speed of the Hongjun Golden Sword was exceptionally fast, and it pierced through the bodies of the star demons easily. Moreover, the star demons could not even react to it. Even after some time, not even one star demon was able to get near to Jian Wushuang. As for those that came close to him, there was always a small distance between them and Jian Wushuang. Hence, they were killed by the Hongjun Golden Sword mercilessly. For this period of time, more than half of the hundreds of star demons had been killed by the Hongjun Golden Sword that was controlled by Jian Wushuang. The speed of the massacre using the Hongjun Golden Sword is too fast, Jian Wushuang muttered. He could only control one Hongjun Golden Sword nimbly. If he were to achieve the peak of the first stage of the Hongjun Golden Sword where he could control 9 Hongjun Golden Swords, he would become even more frightening during the massacre. Just then, a crimson, glittering light appeared vigorously. A crimson star demon? Jian Wushuang's eyes squinted. Under the control of his soul power, the Hongjun golden sword turned around fiercely and headed toward the crimson star demon ruthlessly like a shooting star. A crimson star demon could rival human experts who were in the real god ranking list, and its ability to react was also stronger than the other star demons. When the Hongjun golden sword transformed into a golden shooting star and headed over, the crimson star demon swung its sharp claws with lightning speed. When both of them clashed, the crimson star demon was sent flying, and it could be faintly seen that its palm was bleeding. Haha, even by using chaotic real god-level divine power to control the Hongjun golden sword, I can still send the crimson star demon flying. Jian Wushuang's laughter became louder. Next, let me try unleashing all my divine power. Jian Wushuang's eyes glowed with a shrill light, and the Hongjun golden sword transformed golden shooting star was shot out again. This time round, the golden shooting star's speed and power were obviously greater than before. The Hongjun golden sword clashed with the crimson star demon head-on again. Bam! A loud sound could be heard, and the whole arm of the crimson star demon was blown into pieces by the impact. After that, the power of the Hongjun golden sword remained unchanged, and it continued to pierce the body of the crimson star demon. The crimson star demon was killed straight away. By controlling it with all my divine power, the crimson star demon cannot even take one blow. Jian Wushuang's eyes glowed brilliantly. He could already tell back then that the Hongjun golden sword was extremely powerful and it could raise his abilities greatly. However, after mastering it for real, he knew that he was still underestimating the Hongjun golden sword. Let's continue the massacre. Jian Wushuang laughed. As the Hongjun golden sword moved around, it pierced through the bodies of the star demons easily. Even crimson star demons were considered weak in front of the Hongjun golden sword. Although there were many normal three-horned star demons as well as two-horned and one-horned star demons, they were completely helpless in the face of the Hongjun golden sword's massacre. In no time, the hundreds of star demons which were near the Dark River were all massacred by Jian Wushuang, and only one of them remained. The last star demon was a three-horned crimson star demon. Jian Wushuang left this three-horned crimson star demon to the end as he had felt something strong within its body. Jian Wushuang knew that the Blood Mountain sword that he had lost in this piece of land back then was with this three-horned crimson star demon. Moreover, there was a high possibility of it being in its stomach. Star demons had always liked to eat. Moreover, they liked to eat anything. Be it human cultivators or their treasures, which included various kinds of weapons, they would be able to swallow them straight away. This was also the same for their fellow comrades. For example, during the 6 massacres by Jian Wushuang back then where he had killed a huge number of star demons, he did not manage to get many of the demon cores. However, when he came for his next massacre, those demon cores had already disappeared and it was obvious that they had been eaten by the other star demons. As for the Blood Mountain sword that Jian Wushuang had lost in the Dark Region, it was naturally eaten by the three-horned crimson star demon in front of him. While standing in front of the three-horned crimson star demon, Jian Wushuang could feel the shocking sword essence and anger from the body of the three-horned crimson star demon. Die! Jian Wushuang did not hesitate and he activated the Hongjun golden sword immediately. By controlling it with his full power, the Hongjun golden sword stabbed the body of the three-horned crimson star demon. The three-horned crimson star demon was killed on the spot. After its body was destroyed, what appeared at the same time as its demon core was a long sword which was shaking madly and releasing an infinite amount of sword essence. The sword was Jian Wushuang's Blood Mountain sword. Little thing, please come over. With a wave of Jian Wushuang's hands, the Blood Mountain sword flew over immediately and it was caught by Jian Wushuang tightly. Chapter 1680 Leave. Chapter 1680 Leave. Oh, you even know to blame me? Jian Wushuang's smile spread wider. Blood Sword Mountain was an embryo sword and it was very intelligent. Its sword soul was exactly like a child. Previously, Jian Wushuang had no choice but to lose it in order to make an escape. In the end, it was eaten by a crimson star demon. It was in the crimson star demon's mouth for 100 years, so it of course was upset. Alright, I wouldn't lose you again, Jian Wushuang reassured it. As he reassured it, Jian Wushuang collected the surrounding demon cores. The massacre was the most complete massacre. The star demons surrounding the river were killed and he naturally received a lot of demon cores. After he collected them, Jian Wushuang returned to the independent space. Lord Longqi, Jian Wushuang bowed politely and the unbelievable mountain before him. The mountain didn't move an inch, but the weird elderly with the golden tail that Longqi had taken the form of suddenly appeared before Jian Wushuang. "What's the matter?" Longqi looked at Jian Wushuang. "I'm here to bid farewell to you, Lord Longqi," Jian Wushuang said. "Oh, you're ready to leave?" Longqi sounded cold as usual. "Yes," Jian Wushuang smiled. "Thank you for taking care of me all this time, Lord Longqi." "Don't mention it. I only helped you because of your connection with 7-Star Black Sect." Longqi waved his hand and then exhorted, "Jian Wushuang, remember this. Do not reveal this place where Master is in a deep sleep after you left. It'd be best if you do not bring up whatever you come across here to another person. I do not want anyone to come and disturb Master's sleep." "I will remember this," Jian Wushuang nodded solemnly. Then he asked, "Oh yeah, regarding Hongjun Golden Sword, according to what Lord Longqi said, I only received the skill for the first form of Hongjun Golden Sword. Is there a second form?" "A second form? Of course. However, only the real Hongjun Golden Sword could perform it, not the 9 imitation swords that I have given to you. I do not have the real Hongjun Golden Sword. So, even if I give you the skill of the second form, you won't be able to use it," Longqi said. "I see," Jian Wushuang understood. "If so, I shall leave." "Go ahead," Longqi waved. Jian Wushuang bowed at Longqi again. At the same time, he bowed at the lofty crystal palace as well. Then, he left through the space tunnel. When he arrived at the other end of the space tunnel, which was at the bottom of the Black River, Jian Wushuang realized that the tunnel had already vanished. Obviously, Lord Longqi had closed the space tunnel. In the future, even Jian Wushuang might not be able to return to the independent space. The independent space belongs to the master of Longqi. It is where the ancient super expert is sleeping and no one knows when the superb existence is going to wake up. He might wake up very soon. But, he might not even wake up after I pass away, after the eternal chaotic world collapses and after it enters a brand new era, Jian Wushuang muttered. Regardless, I received a great opportunity in the independent space. I also found out some secrets in ancient times. I am content. In the future, unless my power reaches the level of the experts in ancient times, or I find out a method to wake the experts, I definitely will not step foot here again. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly and turned to leave. The core region of 8th layer, the dark region. The Black River that Jian Wushuang was in was actually not the deepest place in dark region. It was still considered to be the border. It wasn't far outside of the dark region. Previously, due to the hindrance of star demons, Jian Wushuang couldn't leave even though he knew the way to exit. But then, the star demons that were after Jian Wushuang were already massacred. Even if there were some remaining, none would be able to stop Jian Wushuang. On the contrary, they might be killed by Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang returned according to the route he had used to enter the dark region. He didn't run into any hindrances along the way. Very soon, Jian Wushuang walked out of the dark region. "I'm finally out." Looking at the void where the black fog was obviously much thinner, Jian Wushuang stretched his body as he sighed emotionally. "Real God Ziyi, I forced you into a desperate situation back then. You had no choice but to run into the dark region and explode yourself to startled star demons to come after me. Your only goal was for us to meet our deaths together. Even as an enemy, your method is simply admirable. If I were to be in the same desperate situation, I might do the same thing that you did. It's a pity that you got dealt a bad hand. Not only did you fail to bring our deaths together, you also led me to more opportunities. Speaking of which, I really have to thank you." Jian Wushuang smiled. If real God Ziyi hadn't led him to the dark region, he definitely wouldn't have broken through and become a stage 2 ultimate real god so soon, nor would he find the sleeping place of Lord Longqi's master. Also, he wouldn't find out about 7-Star Black Sect and he wouldn't have received so many opportunities. For instance, comprehension of 7-star picture and Hongjun golden sword, both were great opportunities. Of course, Jen Wuxuang had to thank real God Ziyi. It was a pity that real God Ziyi had died so soon. Back when real God Ziyi and I went into the dark region, real God Ziyi died and I lost contact with the lineage of Star entirely. The experts in lineage of Star must be worried sick, Jen Wuxuang muttered, and he immediately took out a token. Hall Master Yuan, how do you do? Jen Wuxuang reported to Hall Master Yuan about his safety. Jen Wuxuang? Finally, we have news from you. I thought you died. Hall Master Yuan immediately replied, and his voice couldn't conceal his excitement. Just as Jen Wuxuang had expected, when Jen Wuxuang and real God Ziyi lost contact with the outside world, both lineage of Star and Soaring Heaven King Palace had been anxious. Especially lineage of Star, they were especially anxious. After all, Jen Wuxuang was the top genius in the history of lineage of Star. As long as he didn't die, he would be at the level of real God Wu Bei at the weakest. One could well imagine his importance. As for real God Ziyi, he was merely a top chaotic real god. There were quite a few chaotic real gods like him Soaring Heaven King Palace. Although there would be heartache if they lost him, it wouldn't be too huge of a loss to Soaring Heaven King Palace overall. My life is tough. How can I die so easily? Jen Wuxuang joked. Tell me, what happened? Where's real God Ziyi? Hall Master Yuan asked. Chapter 1681, Jen Wuxuang and Soaring Heaven King Palace. Chapter 1681, Jen Wuxuang and Soaring Heaven King Palace. Real God Ziyi died long ago. I killed him. However, he was pretty good. Before he died, he cornered me into a desperate situation and the space that I was in was sealed off from the outside world entirely. I couldn't send any message for you to come and rescue me, but I could rely on my own capabilities. However, I am lucky enough to be able to survive and escape from a desperate situation alive, Jen Wuxuang smiled. Is that so? Hall Master Yuan creased his eyebrows. He knew Jen Wuxuang's character well. If even Jen Wuxuang had said it was a desperate situation, the encounter must be beyond imagination. Regardless, it's great that you managed to escape. I, and all experts from Lineage of Star, can finally let out a breath of relief, Hall Master Yuan smiled. Oh yeah, where are you exactly? Let me send the experts from Lineage of Star over immediately to escort you back. Escort? Jen Wuxuang refused. There's no need. I can come back on my own. There's no need. Jen Wuxuang, I'm afraid you do not know what kind of situation you are in now, Hall Master Yuan smiled faintly. Why? Jen Wuxuang couldn't help but ask. 100 years ago, when you were after real God Ziyi in the core region, it spread across wildfire and it stirred a hubbub. Many higher-ups in Soaring Heaven King Palace were notified, especially when you and real God Ziyi disappeared. Soaring Heaven King Palace was furious too. They immediately sent many experts to the 8th lair to search for you and real God Ziyi. They continued to do that for 100 years and they never stopped. On the contrary, Soaring Heaven King Palace sent more and more experts. They even paid a great price to hire some top chaotic real gods. Their intentions are, firstly, they had a string of hope that real God Ziyi might not have been dead. Secondly, to kill me? Jen Wuxuang raised his eyebrows. I'm glad you know that. From the hunt back then, real God Ziyi should be dead from the desperate situation. However, although you were lost, you were most likely not dead. Soaring Heaven King Palace has been barbaric all this while. You continuously killed 2 of their chaotic real gods. Why would they let you off the hook? Hall Master Yuan smirked coldly. Hence, it's best that you find a place to hide for now and wait until the experts from Lineage of Star arrive. Over the years, we of Lineage of Star have also sent many experts to the 8th lair to look for you. Although not as many as Soaring Heaven King Palace, as long as they are with you, it shouldn't be that easy for Soaring Heaven King Palace to kill you. I see, Jen Wuxuang smiled. He understood what Hall Master Yuan meant, but he replied with a smile, Hall Master Yuan, you don't have to go through the trouble. I can return on my own. Jen Wuxuang, you, Hall Master Yuan was shocked. Hall Master Yuan, I have something that I have yet to tell you. During the time when I was in a desperate situation, I broke through and became an eternal real god, Jian Wushuang said. Broke through? Hall Master Yuan was surprised. He knew that it didn't take long for Jian Wushuang to break through from universe god to void real god. It was at most a few hundred years. In such a short period, he broke through from being a void real god to become an eternal real god. How did he progress so quickly? Jian Wushuang, are you really confident? Hall Master Yuan was uncertain. Of course, the current me is not someone who could be dealt with so easily, Jian Wushuang said confidently. If so, all right then. However, if you were to fight with the experts from Soaring Heaven King Palace, I would still let the surrounding experts from Lineage of Star move in your direction, Hall Master Yuan said. Sure, Jian Wushuang nodded. After texting with Hall Master Yuan, Jian Wushuang let out a breath. He suddenly looked at the end of the boundless dark void. Soaring Heaven King Palace, I hoped that you'd be wiser. Otherwise. There was boundless chill soaring in Jian Wushuang's eyes. In the boundless, dark void, there was cold aura. In a dark land, there were over 20 star demons gathered. Suddenly, there was a silver flowing light that plunged into the star demons like a bolt of lightning. Then, a massacre took place. Over 20 star demons were wiped out by the silver flowing light in an instant. The silver flowing light dispersed and revealed a cold-looking elder in silver armor. There was dim light in the cold-looking elder's eyes. He had a smile plastered across his face, but his smile was malicious. Shijiyu, you are pretty carefree. You have the intention to kill these star demons. A red-robed figure appeared next to the cold-looking elder from nowhere. The red-robed figure belonged to a handsome young man. The two of them were top chaotic real gods. Hehe, we have been searching for more than 100 years, but we have never seen real god Ziyi and Jian Wushuang. I reckon that both of them already met death together. It would be a waste of time if we continued to search for them. I might as well spend some time on hunting star demons. The demon cores are good, the cold-looking elder said. Humph, don't forget that Soaring Heaven King Palace hired you at a great price. It's not right for you to hunt star demons. The red-robed handsome man's voice was cold. Hehe, don't worry. Only hunting a few star demons won't interrupt our main goal, the elder said. The red-robed handsome man couldn't say anything more. Just then. Millimeter. The cold-looking elder's face suddenly grew solemn. Someone's here. The red-robed handsome man immediately noticed, and his eyes looked to the void afar at the first instant. There was a figure plunging over slowly. He looked handsome and extremely young. He was in crimson robe and there was a sword on his back. There was no power, but he let out the aura of an expert at all times. The originally carefree cold-looking elder and the red-robed handsome man saw the incomer and their eyes dilated in shock. This outfit, this appearance. It's Jian Wushuang. It's him. Hall Master, I found Jian Wushuang. He's alive. He is near me. The red-robed handsome man immediately exclaimed in surprise. At the same time, he instantly sent a message to Soaring Heaven King Palace. We finally found him and happened to be found by us. The cold-looking elder looked delighted. Let's go. The red-robed handsome man's eyes shimmered with joy. At the very next moment, the two figures plunged out and instantly appeared in the void before Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang, who was traveling forward, could feel the two of them approaching, and he immediately stopped his steps and looked up. So fast. Jian Wushuang smirked and formed a malicious smile. Jian Wushuang, I finally found you. The red-robed handsome man and the cold-looking elder glared at Jian Wushuang and their eyes boiled with rage. Chapter 1682, Show Dignity. Chapter 1682, Show Dignity. One is real god Cheng Tian from Soaring Heaven King Palace. As for the other one, Jian Wushuang looked at the other cold-looking elder and squinted his eyes. The resentment between Soaring Heaven King Palace and I have nothing to do with you, real god Shijiyu. Hehe, it really had nothing to do with me. However, Soaring Heaven King Palace paid a great price and I am really interested in you. An inverse cultivator, the cold-looking real god Shijiyu smiled maliciously. Is that so? Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. It seems that the fight between Soaring Heaven King Palace and I is inevitable regardless. That's funny. You killed 2 chaotic real gods from Soaring Heaven King Palace. For that incident alone, you deserve to die. The red-robed handsome man, real god Cheng Tian roared. I deserve to die. I will wait then. Zhen Wushuang didn't care. As he spoke, there was a fierce aura that soared from his body. Millimeter? Real god Cheng Tian's face changed. Something's not right. Why? Real god Shi Jiyu asked. His aura, it's an aura that an eternal real god would have. Zhen Wushuang already broke through and became an eternal real god. Real god Cheng Tian exclaimed in surprise. What? Real god Shi Jiyu was shocked too. From what they knew, Zhen Wushuang had only broken through and become a void real god not too long ago. Just how many years had it been since he had already reached the level of eternal real god? Previously, he was only a void real god and he could kill real god Ziyi. Now that he has broken through again, his power has definitely increased tremendously. He might be able to compare favorably with experts on real god ranking list. With just the 2 of us, we can't do anything about him. Let us retreat for now. When the other experts from Soaring Heaven King Palace arrive, hem him in and kill him together, real god Cheng Tian said. Real god Shi Jiyu looked unhappy. Although he was upset, he nodded heavily. He wasn't stupid either and he wouldn't make fun of his own life. Retreat. The 2 top chaotic real god immediately retreated and they obviously wanted to give up the idea to fight Zhen Wushuang. But, just as they turned and wanted to leave, the 2 of you don't need to run, a cold voice suddenly resounded in their heads. Real god Cheng Tian and real god Shi Jiyu looked at everything in front of them in shock. They saw that Zhen Wushuang, who was originally far away from them, had taken one leap and appeared in front of them like a bolt of lightning, leaving countless shadows behind him. This speed, real god Cheng Tian and real god Shi Jiyu were astonished. At that very moment, Zhen Wushuang lifted his hand. He didn't draw his sword but merely punched them. Rumble. It was a simple punch but it contained an extremely terrifying diving power and it continued to magnify itself in front of them. The divine power alone made the 2 top chaotic real gods quiver in fear. There was an unprecedented terror in their eyes and they tried their best to withstand it. Then, they made a final struggle and performed their attacks but they were still suppressed by the punch. In the end, they could only watch as Zhen Wushuang's fist swung at them. Hall Master, Zhen Wushuang, real god Cheng Tian didn't even send one a complete message in time. Bang! Bang! The fist was magnified by a few folds. Then, it landed on both real god Cheng Tian and real god Shigu's heads at the same time. Instantly, both of their heads popped. The 2 top chaotic real god instantly died. Divine power comparable favorably with an almighty. It's pretty easy to kill an ordinary chaotic real god. Zhen Wushuang looked at the 2 cold dead bodies that fell as a smile spread across his face. He didn't use any skill on purpose with the earlier punch, merely his own divine power. He had merely suppressed them using his divine power and the 2 top chaotic real gods had been eliminated. That was the huge difference in power between an almighty and a chaotic real god. As the 2 real gods saw me, I was definite that they sent my location to Soaring Heaven King Palace. It seems that, in no time, there'll be other experts from Soaring Heaven King Palace here soon. Zhen Wushuang smiled as he took all the treasures from the 2 real gods into his own Qian Kuan ring. Soaring Heaven King Palace, come on. Soaring Heaven King Palace, in a lofty palace. Real god Cheng Tian sent a message. They saw Zhen Wushuang. Soaring Heaven King Palace Master. That's great. I finally found that son of a bitch. They found Zhen Wushuang. How about Ziyi? The higher-ups of Soaring Heaven King Palace in the hall became anxious. Real god Cheng Tian only saw Zhen Wushuang but didn't see Ziyi around. If I'm not mistaken, Ziyi should have passed. A golden-robed man who looked cold raged furiously. Zhen Wushuang killed 2 chaotic real gods from Soaring Heaven King Palace. Regardless, he has to die. Send down my command. All experts from Soaring Heaven King Palace must immediately rush to where real god Cheng Tian is. Yes. There was someone who took the order immediately to send down his command. Hold on. The golden-robed man suddenly waved and there was anger in his eyes. He had received the incomplete message that real God Cheng Tian had sent before he had died. Real God Cheng Tian has already died. Besides, real God Shi Jiyu, who was with him in the 8th lair, should be dead too, the golden-robed man said in a low voice. What? The higher-ups of Soaring Heaven King Palace who were standing at a lower platform were angry. Real God Cheng Tian and real God Shi Jiyu were both top chaotic real gods. With the two of them joining forces, unless one was an expert that possessed fighting power of an expert on Real God ranking list, it would definitely be impossible for him to kill two of them in such a short period of time. Jian Wushuang possibly already possesses the fighting power of one on the Real God ranking list. Maybe he has other experts around him who have the fighting power of one on the Real God ranking list, the golden-robed man said coldly. Send my command down. Tell all experts of Soaring Heaven King Palace to not take action recklessly before gathering enough power. Do not fight with Jian Wushuang. Even if Jian Wushuang takes the initiative to find them, try to avoid him. Wait until we gather a formation that is sufficient to kill him, then we will hem him in. Also, tell Han Quan to return from the 6th lair and head over to the 8th lair together to kill Jian Wushuang, and tell them that from Real God Jiyu Ying to Real God Ziyi, and now Real God Cheng Tian, we Soaring Heaven King Palace has 3 chaotic real gods that died in Jian Wushuang's hands. It is a great humiliation to Soaring Heaven King Palace. If Jian Wushuang doesn't die, where will Soaring Heaven King Palace's dignity be? Hence, in the next fight, not only should we kill Jian Wushuang, we also have to show our dignity. We have to let Sanctuary Alliance and all forces in Eternal Chaotic World know what is the outcome of offending Soaring Heaven King Palace. In the fight, no matter what kind of obstacle we run into, with the involvement of experts from Lineage of Star, we should hold no scruples and kill everyone. Chapter 1683, Great Movement. Chapter 1683, Great Movement. Soaring Heaven King Palace Master sent down his command and it instantly stirred up a great commotion in Soaring Heaven King Palace. Especially the last part of Soaring Heaven King Palace's speech. Regardless of the intervention, have no scruples, kill them all. He had even highlighted Lineage of Star in his command. Soaring Heaven King Palace obviously wanted to establish their dignity in the fight. As they intended to do so, they had to show everyone. Hence, they had sent the command without covering up and spread it directly. 1. It spread to Thunderbolt Island as well as the entire Sanctuary Alliance. It instantly caused a hubbub in Sanctuary Alliance. To kill the number 1 genius from Lineage of Star without having any scruples? Even if the experts from Lineage of Star get involved, kill them all? Soaring Heaven King Palace is trying to start a fight with Lineage of Star? They are definitely starting a fight. Jian Wushuang is Lineage of Star's precious one. Lineage of Star wouldn't let anything happen to him. They definitely will send a bunch of experts to rescue him. By then, they definitely would fight with Soaring Heaven King Palace directly. Soaring Heaven King Palace is very strong. However, ever since Lineage of Star got the 2 white blaze fruit trees, their foundation and power haven't been much weaker than Soaring Heaven King Palace's. If the 2 overlords were to fight with one another. TSK. That'd be interesting. Countless top experts from all forces of Sanctuary Alliance found out about the news as well. Everyone was looking forward to the fight. Among Sanctuary Alliance, there were great forces that had gotten into war because of their disputes. It was very common. There were even times when forces had been exterminated from it. All forces in Sanctuary Alliance were used to it since long ago. Now, they were just watching the 2 overlords. In the core region of the 8th lair. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. As soon as the experts from Soaring Heaven King Palace, who were scattered around the core region looking for Jian Wushuang, received the command, they rushed over to the location of Real God Cheng Tian immediately. Plus, they were informed about Real God Cheng Tian and Real God Shi Gu's deaths. Hence, they were taking action in groups, very cautiously. In the void, there were 3 figures plunging forward. The 3 of them were top chaotic real gods. There was one that had come from Soaring Heaven King Palace. As for the other two, they were solo experts hired by Soaring Heaven King Palace. In Eternal Chaotic World, there were many powerful solo experts who were unafraid of all forces. As long as the price offered was high enough, they wouldn't even care if they had to offend other major forces. After all, it wouldn't be that easy if the major forces wanted to kill them as well. Then, in order to kill Jian Wushuang, Soaring Heaven King Palace had hired more than 10 solo experts. The three people who were plunging forward at high speed suddenly stopped. A grey-robed old lady who was in the middle turned to look in the dark void behind. I wonder who are the few that have been tailing the three of us? What's the purpose? The grey-robed old lady looked fragile, but her voice was bright and contained power that spread in all directions. Then, the experts who followed the three of them never revealed themselves, but there was a burst of laughter. Old monster Ling Xie, we don't want to do anything. We just want to watch. After all, we don't know where Jian Wushuang is. We can only find him if we follow you. Yeah, go ahead with yours. We will not get involved in the fight between you and Lineage of Star. A fight between Soaring Heaven King Palace and Lineage of Star, it's a once-in-a-lifetime occurrence. We don't want to miss it. The grey-robed old lady squinted her eyes when she heard the laughter. If everyone is really here to watch, go ahead and follow us. Let me say this first, if any of you think of getting involved when the fight starts, Soaring Heaven King Palace won't let any of you off the hook, the grey-robed old lady said. Then, she turned to continue to rush her journey. Ling Xie, wouldn't it be too great of a move that Soaring Heaven King Palace is pulling? An expert who was flying alongside the grey-robed lady asked casually. Soaring Heaven King Palace is trying to show dignity. Naturally, the more spectators the merrier, the other person said with a smirk. Stop joking. We are nearing the location of Jian Wushuang. By then, we'll rely heavily on the two of you, the grey-robed old lady said. Don't you worry about it. As the two of us agreed to help Soaring Heaven King Palace, we will naturally give our best shot, the two of them agreed heartily. Then, Soaring Heaven King Palace took the initiative to attack and it spread like wildfire in Sanctuary Alliance. Those experts who were wandering in the 8th layer naturally knew about it too. Hence, they purposely rushed over as well. Plus, there were many pairs of eyes in Sanctuary Alliance who were watching the upcoming fight closely. The fight could be said to be a public attraction. In boundless darkness, there was a barren land with no signs of life. Jian Wushuang didn't opt to plunge into the void but walked step by step on the land. He walked very slowly. It had been a few days since he had killed real god Cheng Tian and real god Shi Yu. Over the past few days, he had walked for less than 10,000 miles. It was as though he didn't move at all but was waiting for strong opponents to come by. In actual fact, he was really waiting for the experts from Soaring Heaven King Palace. Jian Wushuang, my friend, the movement that you have caused is extraordinary. There was an expert from Soaring Heaven King Palace who sent me a message earlier. They offered me a great price for me to assist them to kill you. Honestly, Soaring Heaven King Palace lives up to their reputation as a top major force. They were very generous in their offer, even I was very tempted. Haha, brother Peng Hu, did you agree with them? Jian Wushuang and real god Peng Hu were chatting casually. Don't you know me yet? I never make trouble with anyone else. Even if there are benefits, I would never offend anyone for no reason. Plus, we are friends to begin with. Why would I fight with you for some offered benefits? Real god Peng Hu laughed. That's a pity. I thought I would have a chance to fight brother Peng Hu, Jian Wushuang joked. You want to fight with me? Head to Thunderbolt Island and we can do that. By then, we can even catch up over a drink. Real god Peng Hu was very enthusiastic. No problem, Jian Wushuang nodded but he suddenly paused. Brother Peng Hu, talk to you later. The experts from Soaring Heaven King Palace have found me, Jian Wushuang replied. Be careful. Soaring Heaven King Palace aren't nice people to offend, real god Peng Hu exhorted. They aren't nice, but I am not either. Jian Wushuang smiled coldly. Then, he cut off his connection with real god Peng Hu. On the land in darkness, Jian Wushuang lifted his eyes and looked in one direction. His soul power had already detected the three approaching auras from the direction. The three auras belonged to three top chaotic real gods. Chapter 1684, Formation. Chapter 1684, Formation. The experts from Soaring Heaven King Palace have learned their lessons. Jen Wushuang smiled faintly. The three top chaotic real gods who appeared within the coverage of his soul power stopped nearby but didn't come nearer to fight with him. It was obvious that they intended to wait for more experts to gather. When they had a stronger formation, they'd attack him. Jen Wushuang couldn't be bothered. He pretended that he didn't notice the three experts and continued to move forward slowly. As time passed, there were more and more experts that appeared around Jen Wushuang. The experts who were from Soaring Heaven King Palace and those who were hired by Soaring Heaven King Palace made a total of 7. A total of 7 top chaotic real god and 2 had the power of 1 who was extremely close in fighting power of 1 on the real god ranking list. Such a formation was very strong. However, Soaring Heaven King Palace wasn't in a hurry to attack him. Jen Wushuang, real god Huan Yu and I are nearby. There was suddenly a message. Oh, real god Duan Yang. Jen Wushuang raised his eyebrows. Real god Duan Yang and real god Huan Yu were 2 tops chaotic real gods in lineage of star. When the experts from Soaring Heaven King Palace were approaching Jen Wushuang, the experts from lineage of star naturally followed. However, in terms of formation, the difference was vast. It wasn't because there was a vast difference between lineage of star and Soaring Heaven King Palace but because lineage of star didn't pay a great price to hire experts for help. Hall Master Yuan wanted to do so but Jen Wushuang had rejected him. We are doomed. Soaring Heaven King Palace has already gathered 7 top chaotic real gods around himself. Even an expert on real god ranking list has to avoid such a team formation. The 3 of us won't be able to match evenly, real god Duan Yang said in a low voice. Maybe. Jen Wushuang nodded faintly. Jen Wushuang, these experts from Soaring Heaven King Palace came for you. Why don't you look anxious at all? Real god Duan Yang was shocked at his calmness. It will eventually come anyway. What's the use of being anxious? Jen Wushuang smiled but didn't care. You're so positive, real god Duan Yang pouted but suddenly. There were suddenly 3 more fierce auras that popped into the range of Jen Wushuang's soul power coverage. The 3 auras quickly gathered with the other 7 experts from Soaring Heaven King Palace. Another 3? Real god Duan Yang was shocked. Shit. Real god Huan Yu looked solemn. Previously, there were only 7 top chaotic real gods and they were already far beyond what we could withstand. But now, there are another 3. A total of 10 top chaotic real gods. Among them, there are 2 who are extremely close to real god ranking list. This team formation is terrifying. Jen Wushuang, hurry up and run. Huan Yu and I will try our best to help you, real god Duan Yang said. I will perform Heart of Sea region in collaboration with Realm Treasure. I should be able to hold them back for a while. You seize the chance, real god Huan Yu said. The 2 real gods were obviously anxious. Actually, you don't have to. Jen Wushuang had yet to finish his sentence. They are going to attack. Real god Duan Yang's gaze fixed. In the dark void before Jen Wushuang, the 10 figures flew over at the same time at an extremely fast speed. The aura of the 10 figures was shockingly strong. The moment one moves, he immediately attracted the attention of the experts in the surrounding void. They are attacking. Soaring Heaven King Palace is finally attacking. They gathered a total of 10 top chaotic real gods before they attack. Soaring Heaven King Palace is cautious. Among the 10 top chaotic real gods, there are 2 who are extremely close to real god ranking list. Such a team formation. Even if a true expert on real god ranking list came across this formation, I reckon he could only turn and flee. The experts that had gathered in the nearby void to watch were getting excited. They followed the experts from Soaring Heaven King Palace to watch the fight. They want to witness a top geniuses passing with their own eyes. In the dark void, the top chaotic real gods from Soaring Heaven King Palace appeared in the void before Jen Wushuang and they let out a billowing murderous intention. Jen Wushuang, you have to die. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. In the terrifying explosion noise, There was boundless divine might that pressed at Jian Wushuang. However, before they could get close to Jian Wushuang, there was suddenly a lady in white that appeared before Jian Wushuang. The lady in white was graceful. She held a sword in her left hand and a unique compass in her right hand. Heart of sea region, whirling world, rumble. Sea water in jade green swept out and flooded the universe. Instantly, it formed billowing waves that were tens of thousand zhong tall. The billowing waves lapped and covered the 10 experts from soaring Heaven King Palace. That is real God Huan Yu from Lineage of Star. Real God Duan Yang is here too. The two of them want to stop us so that Jian Wushuang will have a chance to flee. Humph. Dream on. Palace Master commanded that we hold no scruples. As the experts from Lineage of Star dare to get involved, we will kill them all together. Die. The 10 top chaotic real God took out their divine weapons simultaneously. At the same time, there were various auras that spread out. Some were like scorching hot flames, others like sturdy mountains. There were even some who wielded their huge axes and slashed the first 10,000 tall waves that swept at them. Jian Wushuang, let's hurry up and leave. Real God Duan Yang roared. Real God Huan Yu, and he wanted to flee at first instant. The two of them had never thought of fighting head-on with the 10 top chaotic real God. That was simply courting death. However, just as they prepared to leave, Jian Wushuang, who stood on the Darkland, suddenly lifted his head and his cold eyes let out 2 substantiated lights as he looked at the 10 top chaotic real gods. Suddenly, there was an instant murderous intention that soared up. Swoosh! A ghostly figure burst out and left behind countless shadows in the void. The ghostly figure pierced Sea of Heart region that real God Huan Yu performed and appeared before the 10 top chaotic real gods. The sight shocked the experts at the scene, including those experts who were watching in the dark. They were all astonished. Everyone could tell that real God Huan Yu had performed Sea of Heart region and Whirling World with his all in order to create a chance for Jian Wushuang to flee and survive. Everyone thought so, including real God Huan Yu and real God Duan Yang themselves. But in the end, Jian Wushuang didn't run away but barged out alone. He came before the 10 top chaotic real gods. Chapter 1685, 10 Real Gods. Chapter 1685, 10 Real Gods. Jian Wushuang. Real God Duan Yang and real God Huan Yu saw Jian Wushuang's action and they were shocked. Especially real God Huan Yu, it wasn't easy for her to perform Sea of Heart region and Whirling World at the same time. As for the 10 top chaotic real gods from Soaring Heaven King Palace, they were first astonished. Then, they laughed. Jian Wushuang is courting death. If the 10 of us team up, even if he really has the fighting power of one on real god ranking list, he will only be suppress. As he wants to die, I shall grant him his wish. Die. The 10 real gods had murderous intention billowing and their cold gazes were fixed upon Jian Wushuang. The following scene made the 10 real gods starred with their eyes wide open. Jian Wushuang appeared in front of them and pointed with his right index finger. Rumble. There was boundless divine power gathering. Instantly, there was a huge hand that seemed to appear from ancient times. The huge index finger pointed with a layer of dim light as though it contained a complete reincarnation doctrine. Ancient God's 5th finger. Get through difficulty finger. The huge finger pressed over and the 10 real gods stunned. Not only them, but also real gods Duan Yang and real God Huan Yu afar, including the experts hidden in the nearby void, were all dumbfounded. Too powerful. The power contained in the finger was too powerful. It was so powerful that it exceeded the top chaotic real god level. Even on the real god ranking list, there were definitely very few who could perform an attack of such a level. The strength of the one finger had yet to explode entirely. Merely an attack could make all 10 real gods from Soaring Heaven King Palace feel like their scalps were tearing. Power, how could it be so powerful? Real god Duan Yang muttered. He didn't know that Jian Wushuang's divine power was at the level of an almighty's. He performed Ancient God's 5th finger with his divine power of an almighty level. How could it not be powerful? Hurry up. Don't just stand there. Work together to block this finger. A raging voice suddenly rang from the 10 real gods. The 10 real gods immediately came back to reality and took action one after another. As top chaotic real god, they were all experts in each corner of eternal chaotic world. However, the 10 chaotic real gods took action simultaneously and performed their killer tactics, just to block the huge finger that was attacking them. However, even though the 10 of them had joined forces, the outcome was bang! There was a ferocious noise that shook heaven and earth. The space-time exploded entirely. At the same time as the space-time exploded, poof, 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 poof. The 10 real gods spurted out a mouthful of blood and 10 figures flew back from the impact. He fought against 10 alone head-on, but in the end, the 10 real gods were defeated. Just as the 10 real gods flew back from the impact, Blood Mountain's sword appeared in Jian Wushuang's hand and there was suddenly a terrifying sword intention and murderous intention. Swoosh! With boundless shadows, Jian Wushuang's figure appeared before a top chaotic real god who was closest to him. Then, Blood Mountain's sword in his hand was swung out mercilessly. The sword was swung like a bolt of lightning that contained fierce divine power that an almighty had, and also with the power of reincarnation. Be careful. There was someone who shouted a reminder in time from the side. The brawny man in red armor was shocked. He immediately wielded the saber in his hand and slashed. He wanted to block Jian Wushuang's stroke. Dang! There was a low thud and the saber in the brawny man's hand flew out. The cold swordlight pierced the brawny man's head. After it killed the brawny man, the cold swordlight didn't grow weaker but continued to slash at the black-haired graceful lady behind. What? The black-haired graceful lady never thought that the sword light would continue to swing at her. Hence, she couldn't dodge in time. Pest! The sword light pierced the black-haired graceful lady's body and dispersed gradually. The sight shocked everyone on the spot. It was a fierce finger earlier that suppressed 10 real gods head-on. Then, it was a close sword stroke, a casual stroke that killed 2 top chaotic real gods directly. What kind of fighting power was that? Quong! The figure moved in a ghostly fashion again. It brought along boundless shadows and appeared behind a black-haired brawny elder. The same stroke with fierce divine power, merely suppressing one with force. Although the black-haired brawny man withstood it with his all, he was killed by Jian Wushuang with one stroke. Quong! 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 His ghostly figure continued to move and he continued to swing out sword lights. Every stroke contained murderous intention. Pest! 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 The figures were slashed or pierced one after another at an unbelievable speed. In an instant, less than a breath's time, the entire void resumed tranquility. In the dark void, Jian Wushuang stood there coldly and slowly put Blood Mountain's sword in its scabbard. Surrounding him were 9 floating cold dead bodies. Although they were dead, there was fierce divine power left in the bodies, which was the reason their bodies didn't fall below instantly. Jian Wushuang lifted his head to look in one direction. At the end of his sight, there was a black-robed old lady. The black-robed old lady was real god Ling Xie from Soaring Heaven King Palace. You are quite lucky, Jian Wushuang broke into a smile. The smile looked just like a demon's smile in real god Ling Xie's eyes. She saw the 9 cold dead bodies floating around Jian Wushuang. There was astonishment and unprecedented glee in her eyes. She should be glad that she was lucky and fast enough in her response that she could escape in time. Otherwise, she definitely would be one of the dead bodies. In the nearby void, the experts hidden in the dark became quiet. Everyone was looking at Jian Wushuang, who was standing right in the middle of the void. With his power alone, he matched evenly with 10 top chaotic real gods. Among them, there were 2 peak experts who were extremely close to real god ranking list. But in the end, in an instant, less than a breath's time, 9 out of the 10 real gods were massacred. There was only real god Ling Xie, who survived through sheer luck. Astonishing, shocking, everyone found it unbelievable. One should know just how great a formation it was with 10 top chaotic real gods joining forces. Even if it were expert on real god ranking list, those who were on higher ranking, they should be able to match evenly. However, they were fighting against Jian Wushuang and they were massacred directly. Plus, the speed of massacre was extremely fast. Jian Wushuang. Real God Duan Yang and real God Huan Yu appeared in front of Jian Wushuang, and the two of them were astonished. Jian Wushuang flashed a smile at the two of them. I wanted to tell you earlier that, actually, we don't have to flee. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.